Doctor Who, Season 12, Episode 5, Fugitive of the Judoon. Okay,
Oh
I think
no!
I think we should probably
Exception.
take this episode in two parts. Like one framing I would think to talk about it would be, okay, let's talk about it as an episode of its own and then talk about the retcon.
Yeah,
Cuz those
because
cuz
that is going to be a huge uh
That's gonna.
that's just
We probably should talk about the episode first because the retcon is gonna take an extra 30 minutes just to talk about.
yeah.
Because if
I
this
mean,
say this episode had been like, I don't know, adjust the personality of, I think it's Joe Martin, the new unknown regeneration. If it had
yeah,
been like, I don't know, if you'd adjust the personality in the speech for, say, I don't know, one of the Time Lords that we know, or even one we don't know,
like
it
honestly, when she broke that glass, I was like, "It's the Ronnie! It's the Ronnie! It's the Ronnie!"
yeah,
like chanting, "Ronnie, Ronnie, 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 Ronnie."
yeah. And if it had
Uh,
been the Ronnie, that would have been an amazing episode.
it would have been
That would have had
honest.
no qualms,
I
no quibbles about it.
honestly,
That would have been
it
a
was
great
a
episode.
it was a perfect episode up until, oh, I'm the doctor. What? No, I'm the doctor. Or even if it were a future regeneration of the doctor, that would have been cool too.
Okay,
But
okay. What
yeah,
about
We should put the retcon aside because we'll
yeah.
get into that
Let
later.
let
Because
let's save the tangent rants for the ranchants for after.
yeah, yeah, I got a little too out there, but yeah. So I mean, okay. First off,
It was,
the acting by, I think it's Joe Martin. I'm saying that, but I don't remember her name off. If I'm not sure about that's her name, but the unknown Ruth. We'll call her Ruth for the
yeah.
sake of not confusing anything. But yeah, I mean, she was pretty good for
Yeah.
um, uh,
It
we
it was it was an interesting character type as far as being, supposed to be the doctor. I was an interesting character and all, but I just, again, let's put a pause on the retcon.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
mean, coming into this, we knew, like, if you're watching, when you see, something's up. And initially they're like, okay, it's going to be, this, if you're running on standard Doctor Who logic, okay, they're looking for a fugitive. It's going
it's
to
going
be
to be
the
either
husband.
it's going to be either the wife or the husband,
Yeah.
because they do like to throw those curveballs, and then at this
Yeah.
point the curveballs become kind
Yeah.
of obvious. It's kind of like the that one pitcher who always throws curveballs, so then you're just expecting it at that point.
Yeah. But yeah, it was she was, it's like the one thing that's kind of interesting was the hexagonal mirror, which I went back, and this was actually an episode I watched twice, which I don't think I've watched any of 13 twice. Maybe her premiere, but I think past that I don't think I've watched any of them twice, because I'm just not interested in watching them twice. They're just so bad. But yeah, I was going back, and I was, once I knew the twist, I was like looking around, and like they could have planted a few more details in the house, like some round things.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been a nice touch. Like there's a little, sort of an accent wall that's got some plates or something, as decoration on a wall, and they're all sort of set up like the round things.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been an interesting way of sort of foreshadowing it. and it would have made the second watch even more. Oh, but yeah, you didn't know it was like at first you don't know it's there's aliens involved because the Judoon wouldn't be there if there's not aliens involved. I mean, because why would they concern themselves with a human? Like, no human is capable of
It's
something that
not.
would get the Judoon's attention.
It's not their jurisdiction.
Yeah, yeah, it's not their jurisdiction. They're nowhere near the moon. But that was also a little bit of a cringy thing. It's like,
Well, I mean, that is kind of the Doctor's personality now. She's just really cringy.
yeah, there's like
I mean,
the
it,
lagoon. That's more of a canal. Ugh.
yeah.
Okay, like I like a bad joke, but good grief. Like if you'd lean into the cringe somehow, like, but she just like it's like intermittent cringe, and it's just like lean into it, but just like she doesn't lean into anything. It's kind of boring, but um, emotions or whatnot. But I did like the coffee shop guy.
Yeah,
You can do
that's
better, and he just like
like, yeah, I got your cake for you. Like, dude, really, really?
he has a whole dossier. It's like, oh come on.
That is just screams desperation right there.
Yeah, there's something wrong with that guy.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, at least we didn't have to suffer him too long because he did.
well, I think yeah, they used him just long enough to make him somewhat funny, but not so much that he gets irritating. Like he gets two scenes, well, three or is the first? I don't know. He has one with her, one with him, and then the one with the
One with
doctor coming
the
in the Judoon.
yeah.
Um, but
So I mean, technically 3.5.
yeah, something like that. But yeah, he's only used very sparingly and only used for that joke, and then he's then we he's removed from he's removed. Um,
Yeah.
uh, wow, Barrowman. he's
Yes.
this,
Oh my God. First of all, I did squee when he came by, even though it was spoiled for me that he was in it.
luckily I wasn't spoiled. I actually got to that point without getting spoiled that Barrowman was going to show
Oh,
up. So he was even better. And he was
I
he,
loved that scene with the like where he kisses Graham and he doesn't even give Graham a chance to say, "Dude, what's up?" And he's just like, I love the look. That silver streak totally dead." It's like, oh my God, cringe. And poor Graham's just like, what? It's like, anyways, doctor. Oh, no, no, I'm not the doctor.
Well,
I'm
tell
just
him,
a
and no,
traveler.
no, she. Oh,
She.
oh, I gotta see this.
Ooh, she.
It's like, really,
And
three of you?
I love
I had a
when he
dream like
beeps
this.
the other two up. I love when he beeps the other two up, and he's like, "Ooh,
She likes
getting
him.
him young," but he said she, so wait, what? Three of you? I had a dream like this once. I love his feistiness.
Well, he's just absolutely like I'm
Yeah,
wondering why there's not a hull breach because he's chewing the scenery with such panache.
yeah,
But that's kind of Jack's character.
I know.
I mean, he wouldn't really be Jack if he didn't go around chewing the scenery occasionally. Like he
I
actually
love
looked
that.
excited to be there. Like he was the only
Yeah,
one this episode besides Ruth who seemed really excited to be there. Like she seemed
yeah.
genuinely interested in doing the show. He seemed extremely interested in doing the show. It's like everybody else was just sort of eh.
There.
They were there, they were doing their bit, but like they really poured it on. Meanwhile, one thing that I wanted to ask you, because you have a more categoric knowledge of ships, did that outside of that ship look like anything?
You
Like,
mean the Judoon ship?
no, not the Judoon ship, the one uh,
Jack's ship?
Jack stole. Yeah.
I don't remember because I was trying to watch it again this morning, but Jack was being a little brat, and I had to remake my dinner because he threw a fit and flipped the tablecloth, and everything went into. I had to make a new cup of tea. I had to make more, so I didn't get a chance to get that far,
Oh, okay.
honestly. And
Okay.
like,
Well, I just wondering because you have a
I
more
don't remember what it
encyclopedic
looks like.
knowledge.
Yeah, I don't remember what it looks like, so I could not say.
Well,
Honestly,
if it didn't immediately pop to you that that was what it was, then it probably didn't look like anything. And the fact that he was so vague about what fight he was in the middle of, it probably didn't look like anything on purpose to sort of
yeah.
hide what was going on, what Jack had got himself in the middle of. So, but yeah,
I
he,
those, I think it was one of those plot device moments where it's just like, eh, we need some random thing.
yeah, and it does sort of that whole series of scenes just sort of feels like, oh yeah, we're pulling you out and boop, we're having this whole separate little storyline going on along the side, so that
Hey,
it's actually just the doctors.
so
You know,
can somebody refresh my memory? When was the last time we saw Jack? I'm not talking about the face of Bo Jack. Jack.
oh,
That would be Miracle. Are you talking Doctor Who? Doctor Who, or are you counting
Who?
spin-offs? Because spin-offs, he was in Torchwood. The
I know he's
last
in
was
that.
Doomsday,
but
Was
and
like
that
it
was
Doctor Who? Doctor Who?
regular Doctor Who.
Yeah.
it would have been Tenant.
Yeah, it was the very end of Tennant's run when he's on that space station and that um dude who was the pilot from the Titanic and he's
Oh,
like the doctor shipped those two off together, sent him a
uh,
note like,
oh
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, because at the end, yeah, they're at the bar and
yeah,
Alonzo.
Alonzo,
Yeah,
yeah.
because I always wanted to say Alonzi Alonzo.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would have
That's
been
the
that one.
last time we've canonically seen like
Him
that was the
in
last
Doctor
time
Who proper.
Okay.
in Doctor Who proper.
Yeah, you've seen him maybe in comics or he's shown up as he's Torchwood and whatnot, but
Yeah,
he's
he had his own series and that was butchered. I'm
but
gonna be honest, that was totally butchered.
but yeah, that's the last time canonically in Doctor Who proper we saw him was back in towards the end of Tennant's run. But yeah, it's yeah, and it's sort of in Jack's character that anything with two legs, any sentient being with two legs is fair game. Any sentient
Yeah,
adult thing with two legs is fair game for Jack. And probably not even two legs would be a restriction.
yeah.
No.
Anything that can consent and does consent is
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a Jack Harkness test. So you want to you want to screw an imaginary thing or whatever?
Yeah.
Can consent. Is it of legal age? And yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the Jack Harkness test is a thing. But yeah. So I mean, that's pretty much Jack. I mean, he wasn't out of character too much. He was pretty much just he was a
just
little amped up, but not by much.
And I mean, he's usually amped up anyways,
Yeah,
TBH. That's just him.
yeah, yeah. And he's in the middle of a fight, so yeah, he might be just a little on the on edge. But yeah, his part was fine. I mean, we got our story seed for the season, so I don't know exactly what we're gonna get, but he's gone from writing single episode sort of duk, 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 to actually having an overarching story. But he's dropped little hints on things, like in the one with the living cloth that said
Yeah,
something, but
the
that
timeless child.
yeah, something about that, yeah. But other than that, like little bits of that, but we haven't had a really ongoing story for. We didn't have one for Series 11, and Series 12. It's been spotty. We got a story hook at the end of Spyfall,
Yeah.
and then it just
They
sort
did
of
build they did build on that this episode
yeah,
with the where do you keep disappearing to and that sort of thing.
yeah. But they
Where you look
also went in. They also one Time Lord to another. Did the whole mind meld thing, and it's
yeah.
like they did bring it up, but it's been sort of
Yeah.
Spyfall. They intentionally, and then you had all the episodes in between, um, the couple episodes in between, and then they brought it back up now, and then we have the lone Cyberman to worry about. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's been, they're so forgettable this season that I've forgotten the two in between. It was like, oh, it was Tesla and Orphan 55, because this was episode 5, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we had the Spyfall 1 and 2, Orphan 55, terrible, want to forget it. Nikola Tesla, okay, but you know, not particularly memorable. And then this one. Um, so I just blanked on those for a second. Um, but yeah, so they kind of ignored it for the middle two, and then brought it back for this. So I don't know if we're gonna get another couple episodes and then more information, or if we're gonna start going chasing this thing. Um, Given that we're in mid-season, probably in was like 10 episodes this series.
Yeah,
So
we're at the halfway mark.
being that we're at the halfway point, probably only one fluff episode if you're gonna have a big sort of chasing a story. Though then again, we don't know. They have they got their contract extended for one more season, so they were gonna have another season of Whitaker and Chibnall. But but
We know you're ecstatic about that.
yeah, but what I don't know what their ideas from there. They may be just like, okay, ratings are starting to really tank. We can't because we've got to be woke. We can't fire the first female doctor and the guy who brought the first female doctor on, but we can. There is a usual time limit on these things. There is a term limit usually on these things. So give them their 3 years and they can walk out saying, "Hey, we spent our time. We got the time that all the other doctors got, and then we can go get somebody who knows what they're doing."
Well, it,
But here's the thing. I have a theory on the doctor thing. The other one comes from a parallel universe.
Word of God has said no. This is
Uh,
a doctor. This is the doctor.
as in from this timeline.
Yeah,
Ouch.
yeah. They have, from what I've
I
heard, word.
I've
Maybe I
heard a
misheard, but that sounds like that was word
I've
of God
heard
that
a
that was
theory.
it.
I've heard a theory that it's part of the interconnected thing. Like, remember that little line at the end of Orphan 55? I know it's an episode we all want to forget because honestly, it's not the preachiness of that episode that bothers me. It is the story writing of it was atrocious. But
The preaching is just this cherry on the sundae.
yeah. I mean, if it were just a good episode but it got preachy, I wouldn't care. But the story was just so haphazardly stitched together, it makes the Sixth Doctor's coat look coherent.
Plot holes you could drive a TARDIS through.
Yeah.
But what you were saying about the...
You could drive Iris Wildtime's TARDIS through. And she's a double-decker bus. She's that double-decker bus. But at the end, how they say time is fluid and time is not set in stone, or whatever that line she used was, possibly possibly something to do with her history has been altered, and her history was being altered.
Yeah, I don't know.
That was the theory.
I mean, I guess it makes sense that she doesn't remember the other Doctor, because...
Let's put the Doctor stuff away for now and finish up with anything else we have on this episode. And then we can talk about the Doctor.
Oh, we did.
I just wanted to make sure we cleared off everything else we wanted to say about the episode. I liked seeing the Judoon again. I know some people don't like them. Some people are like, oh, they're stupid. It's like, no, I kind of like because they're stupid.
Jack loves
the... remind me of?
They're lawful stupid.
Now. He was so excited about the Rhino people. He wants to make him a Judoon costume now. I'm like, I do not have that level of talent right now. Unless I can find a Rhino mask, then I could totally do it. The costume itself is easy enough, but
I like their
language. If I used the Judoon costume, I could repurpose that for a Santaran by simply changing, taking off the skirt and changing the color scheme. Although the original color scheme of the original Santarans was black, so I mean, could go classic Santaran. Anyway.
Then you'd have to make the head look worse.
Yeah.
Something. Shush. They remind me of something. I'm pretty sure there was like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon where there was like Rhino cops or something.
No, they weren't Rhino cops, but Bebop and Rocksteady. Rocksteady is a Rhino.
Okay.
He's a Judoon that got lost along the way.
Well, he's the predecessor of the Judoon.
Yeah. He got sent off into space and cloned and made and then that ended up making a society of Judoon.
Yes.
I just love their language. No mo so roto.
Yeah.
Which is weird because the way their language is, it's very syllabic. Anyway, but then their name is Judoon. It's like
yeah.
How did that happen?
And I guess
actually something else in their language, but that it's the translation matrix.
And I guess the Cybermen might be returning.
Well, I mean, beware the... Okay, am I the only one who thought, beware the one-legged man, he's the one to fear?
Oh, what is that from?
Huh?
What is that from?
Muppet Treasure Island.
Oh, yeah!
I
actually just watched that.
It's been ages since I watched it, so I don't remember it that well. I haven't seen it in ages, so it doesn't...
The one-legged man fears that brings death. But that's what I thought when I saw when he's talking about the lone Cyberman. Beware the lone Cyberman. He's the one-legged man. He's the one to fear.
Now I've just got this image of, the revival era Cyberman, but he's got on a pirate hat. He's got a peg leg. Little cyber parrot. Yar, you will be upgraded.
Ye will be upgraded.
or you will walk ye plank.
Wait,
Oh,
I just realized something.
what?
Now you're probably not really a fan of the game. I think the games are okay, but the animatronics at Five Nights at Freddy's are Cybermen.
I don't know enough about lore of that to understand that reference.
They try to stuff human bodies inside the exoskeletons of the machines.
Okay. I don't know the lore of it, but yeah, that sounds about right.
Well, I mean, Borg to a certain extent. I mean, you see more of their face, but
I
they're
mean, the Borg are technically just they're all things of a theme, you know. They're all variations on a theme. That's the word. Variations.
Yeah.
yeah.
That
I mean,
thing,
and they had
that was one thing. I mean, her characterization of the Doctor, even though she was only in it for like, she was only the Doctor legitimately for like 5 minutes. She had more personality.
okay. If we're gonna exit exit the episode as a whole. If the episode had been the Ronnie or something like that, great episode. But now we're getting into the
Okay.
retcon and talking about the Doctor
Yeah, and
proper.
as for I guess it kind of makes sense that she doesn't remember her because did she remember the War Doctor?
Yes, but they don't talk about him.
Yeah,
Okay.
like I don't. Yeah, it's the it's 11 was ashamed of him, which is interesting. Also, in the like one thing I wanted to bring up with the problem with this episode, one of the big problems with retcon, because it's going to have to make this episode completely pointless or rip it up, is when Clara went into the Doctor's timeline. What did
Yeah,
she see? She saw the 12 faces of the Doctor. She saw even the War Doctor. She saw. So it's not something he can't hide from his timeline. So, obviously 13 didn't exist yet, and the future Doctors didn't exist yet because he was supposed to die. That whole timeline was predicated on him dying. That's why his timeline was there. And his time stream was there. And so, like, there are two ways to solve this problem. Put her, like, if you put her afterwards, after everybody, then that makes the timeline make sense. She would just have to have a lot of memories removed. Like, that would make sense. It would make sense with if she lost her memory, that would make continuity wise would be fine because she'd be a future regeneration, and it doesn't mess up that scene when Clara's in the timeline because she wouldn't be there yet. It doesn't mess up the number of doctors. It doesn't mess up anything. She just is a future one that's just forgotten everything, which
hmm
that's smooth. The other side of that is trying to put her somewhere else in the Doctor's timeline, which doesn't make any sense because she had a blue police box, and it didn't break and become a blue police box until the first Doctor. And
true.
she didn't. If we assume she hasn't lost any of her memories, then she didn't know what a sonic screwdriver was, which means that didn't come into what, the third Doctor.
Second, the
Okay.
second Doctor had a sonic screwdriver. It looked like a pen light.
Okay.
You know, one of those pens that have a little flashlight at the end. And it literally was a screwdriver.
Okay.
It
So
used sonic impulses to remove screws. It didn't have the whole fancy schmancy software until the third Doctor.
okay.
But the sonic screwdriver originated in the second Doctor. Sorry.
Okay, so all right,
Not his
so
best-
that puts her between 1 and 2. If he got the sonic screwdriver in 2, like she would recognize a sonic screwdriver at 2, but she wouldn't have the police box looking one until after 1, but before 2. But that doesn't work because we saw 1 and 2.
And
1 become 2.
So we saw 1 become 2.
There was no
And
off camera or anything. Like, War Doctor could be squeezed in there because we didn't ever see what happened to Paul McGann's Doctor.
Yeah.
So 9 was
at least
fine.
episode.
Yeah, we never saw it. There was that big gap, so they had plenty of time to work in. Like the whole Time War was open to them, so they could have a War Doctor in there, and it made sense. It was fine, and the fact that it was John Hurt, so that was. Awesome.
That just makes everything better.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fact that it still fits in continuity, and it's John Hurt, so you're not gonna really fight that too hard. So
Yeah.
would have been great to have gotten Eccleston, but John Hurt's pretty good. Which makes me wonder if Eccleston was originally supposed to be like freshly regenerated when he started, or he was supposed to have been the War Doctor, and if they could have gotten him as essentially filling in the War Doctor's role, if that would have put the regeneration off, they're having to fix the regeneration limits off until after 11. But anyway,
well, he was supposed to be freshly regenerated, according to
we did see him check out his ears, so we did see him check out his ears, so
yeah, he checked out his entire face when he in Rose, so that Rose take place right after the war.
Yeah, right at the time when we see the War Doctor regenerate, but that's in this timeline. So anyway, yeah. But going back and trying to find a place for her in the timeline. So, if the second used a screwdriver and one brought us the police box, then there's not a really great place to stick her.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much wrong with her being supposed to be the Doctor. It's just like that huge gaping hole in the fabric of continuity.
I mean,
honestly,
maybe she really is the Ronnie. She's really good at hiding it.
Well, the Sonic would have gone, hey, this, because they went and did the scan and said, no, this is the same person.
Yeah.
Said really good at hiding it.
Well, I mean, the Ronnie is a master of disguise.
But... right hurt.
Huh?
This makes my mind hurt.
You would have to have one to hurt.
But yeah, it doesn't. So I mean, if we're taking the pegs as those two things, I mean, it just.
Which is why it needs to be some form of either alternate dimension, or it has to be some form of time slippage. Like, actually, I was just listening to some Big Finish audios with that, which, by the way, Legacy of Time is amazing. It has so much fan service in those 6 discs. They have Jenny meeting the 5th Doctor, which is especially funny because the Doctor is her actual father.
Yeah.
And they even mentioned Time Crash.
Oh, God. 10 running into 5. Oh, my goodness.
There's a time wave, and so she mentions, oh, the time crash. And he's like, time crash? And I'm just like, oh, my gosh. But anyway, also they have Osgood and Joe Jones being BFFs and a time slip. And anyways, but they have addressed the fact that if you change your past, if something happens to your past concurrently, it will alter your present, but you won't realize it.
Yeah, and so
because there is, ripple effect. So something might have affected her past that caused the change in regeneration or whatever, and therefore she doesn't recognize this because her mind hasn't caught up with the temporal effect yet.
Or
that's
cloning.
Another Jenny? But no, because Jenny knew that she was the doctor's daughter, not the doctor.
But yeah, I mean, it just
That was like a glaring inconsistency. It was just like, oh my gosh, why did you destroy a perfect episode?
Yeah, if you'd made her the Ronnie, or had said she was some future, like they did with the Valyard, and saying, oh, he's somewhere between your 12th and last regenerations, and she was a future incarnation, like if she'd remembered, like, oh yeah, she knew about the
destruction of Gallifrey.
Yeah, she remembered that, and the sonic screwdriver and all that, and just been a future one. Okay, you're burning a regeneration from the future, but and that's weird. But okay, that makes at least it doesn't break things.
Yeah, like
it was from an old batch of regenerations.
Well, you'd have to.
No, you see, there technically was prior regenerations that the Doctor had. That was called the Other. And what happens is the Doctor is actually supposedly a reincarnation of the Doctor is technically a reincarnation of the Other, who is part of the trio that actually created the temporal effect. I mean, the whole time travel and TARDISes and stuff was actually created. The Eye of Harmony, that was created by Omega, Rassilon, and the Other. The Other ended up regenerating. I mean, not regenerating, but when he was transferred into the Matrix, he came out when the Doctor was bloomed. So he became, his bioprint became the Doctor. So technically, if she were a regeneration of the Other, that could possibly be some sort of affectation. But the problem with that is still the TARDIS.
I see.
Yeah.
Because the Doctor proper, the Hartnell Doctor, is the one who stole the TARDIS.
Yeah, and we saw that in the timeline.
Yeah. And,
keep talking.
And there were theories that Susan, I don't know if it was a fan theory or if it was in one of the books, I forget which, because I hadn't actually read it. I just read it within Wiki. Research. But Susan was actually the biological granddaughter of the Other, and the Doctor had gone back into his past timeline after stealing the TARDIS and met Susan, but Susan recognized him as her grandfather because he was basically the reincarnation of her grandfather. And so he took her with him, and that's why they were fugitives and why they were stuck on Earth, because they were hiding from the Time Lords, because he stole the TARDIS and he stole Susan.
And if you look at it from the TARDIS's perspective, she stole him.
True.
They stole each other.
They did.
Whoever's playing audio?
Huh?
I keep hearing this occasional audio.
Yeah, it's a freaking ad that keeps popping up.
Anyway, but yeah, we have this, Moffat took great pride in sort of saying, yeah, this, like the way he set out that one episode, he basically laid out the Doctor's entire timeline up until that point and just said, here's the timeline, here's all the ones that it's been. Like,
Yep.
like if it had been between 2 and 3, like they had done stuff like
That would have worked if it were between 2 and 3, because technically we didn't see the actual regeneration because it was
but
a forced
it's also really weird because that would mean that you had Troughton's Doctor transformed by the Gallifreyans into, because they were controlling his regeneration at that point, transform him into Ruth Doctor, okay, set the Ruth Doctor out doing things, she has a job, and then come back, land, change back into the Troughton clothes, holes and all, regenerate into 3, and fall out of the TARDIS.
Hey, I mean, then it will all be explained and everything.
I mean, they did have I'm hearing an echo.
Oh man.
They did have they did have Series 6B or Season 6B, which, for those who are not in the know, was the fan theory that because of the events in the Two Doctors and the fact that
Could you stop shuffling papers and slamming drawers, please?
Oh, shut up.
What?
I said shush to you and my housemate that keeps calling me on Lexi.
okay. But according to fan theory, because of the fact that Jamie was significantly older in the Two Doctors, and the fact that the Doctor was working for the CIA, which is not the American CIA, it's the Time Lord CIA. They have there's a fan theory out that says that there's an entire series 6B where the Doctor and Jamie were traveling and doing the bidding of the Time Lords because, well, that was his penance and stuff, and that way he get to keep Jamie a little longer. Because Jamie, he was always fond of Jamie, as the Sixth Doctor had mentioned. But anyways, so I mean, if that were the case, it wouldn't be that far-fetched as far as that goes.
Yeah,
because
the only weird thing would be that she would have to, Troughton would have to do his thing, and then
if you look at the clothes, it wasn't that weird. And also the fact that 3 had lost his memories when he regenerated. I mean, she could possibly fit between 2 and 3, and that entire time was wiped from 3's memory for some reason.
and an extra regeneration cycle was given to the Doctor to sort of mitigate it and make them that it was erased, and 2 was basically they completely erased the end of 2, Ruth, and then put another regeneration into the cycle of the Doctor so that they wouldn't notice, and then turn it right and then regenerate into 3, and then start the proper exile.
Especially if she was working as a member of the Time Lord CIA, because they were supposed to be doing things that weren't exactly on the up and up for Time Lord Society. They were Time Lords have a holistic non-interference pact where they are not allowed to go into go in and deal with other species, but the CIA are actually there to manipulate time to suit the needs of the Time Lords. So if she were working for the CIA along with the second Doctor's incarnation, and perhaps he ended up not forced regeneration, but he ended up regenerating, and so she ended up still working for the CIA at that point. And then she is kind of to be, so to speak.
Yeah, and then maybe the CIA like, okay, doctor's done what they need to do. She was regenerating. They dressed her up in something similar enough to two's outfit so that she wouldn't notice. And then when 3 popped out, they erased the memories, regenerated her, put her in Troughton's outfit. So 3 walks out as Troughton and completely doesn't remember any of the time between.
That would not be the most manipulative or douchey thing that the Time Lords have done.
But yeah, it's still like, the problem is that we didn't, the screwdriver is still a problem. Like, if they didn't mention the screwdriver.
Not really, because first of all, she didn't specifically say she didn't know about the screwdriver, and the second Doctor did not have all the bells and whistles. His sonic screwdriver was literally just a screwdriver.
I don't know.
That happened to be sonic.
But
so all the added bells and whistles might have been a little what?
But yeah, it's a lot of that's a lot of hacking away at lore, and it all of this doesn't make any sense anyway, because if she was there, she would have shown up when Clara dived into his timeline, because
true,
that one it wasn't reliant on his memory, that was reliant on his timeline. And if they erased Ruth from the timeline, they would erase the things that Ruth did, which, they apparently wanted her to do whatever it is she was doing. And so they would want to erase her from the timeline completely, like, and but they couldn't even do it if they wanted to, because then the whole continuity falls apart. But yeah, so there's some serious, like, maybe you could say that, yeah, like, she just didn't mean like a normal Sonic, but like didn't recognize the weird, Sonic with all the bells and whistles, maybe. But it's just, she's definitely following one, but because otherwise it doesn't make any sense with the.
I've got so many issues with the whole retcon of that, honestly. I'm just like trying to squeeze it in, because otherwise that episode was perfect. And I'm like just desperate for them to be like, no, keep on this track because this is really good. Keep doing this. Just get rid of that Doctor.
Yeah. It's like, make her the Ronnie. That would be fine. Just do that.
Yes!
That would have been fine. We haven't had any other Time Lords in Revival who, except for like Rassilon and the Master, like,
and Omega
in Revival.
Huh?
Did we see Omega in Revival since 2005?
No, we didn't see Omega in the. We didn't see Rassilon in the new series, did we?
Yeah, because there's the time at the end of time, at the end of 10's run. He's coming through they're coming through because of the Master, and I think that was supposed to be Rassilon. That was supposed to be.
No, I thought that was just the Lord President.
I think it was supposed to be Lord President Rassilon, but we definitely saw him in Hellbent, because I know we may not want to remember Hellbent, but that was one of the things. Like, he was kicking Rassilon out. One sec. But let's see. Yeah, Hellbent TV story, TARDIS. Rassilon was banished from Gallifrey in the end of time. Okay. Featured the return of the Time Lords, who were last seen in the Day of the Doctor, and given the 11th Doctor, Newer Generations, off-screen in the time of the Doctor. Among them was Rassilon, now in a new incarnation after his previous body was last seen being attacked by the Master in the End of Time in 2010. Rassilon was banished from Gallifrey along with the High Council after losing the allegiance of his race for his cruelty to the Doctor and his role as one of the driving forces of the last Great Time War. He was also deposed as Lord President, with the Doctor briefly assuming it in his place. Also returning was the General, who regenerated and was revealed to be a usually female Time Lady who had assumed a male incarnation, marking the first instance of an on-screen regeneration where a Time Lord changed genders, as well as being a rare on-screen instance of a Time Lord also changing skin color. So those were both Rassilon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we've seen Rassilon, we've seen the Master, and I don't remember an Omega showing up in the Revival Who, but
They can't. They cannot bring Omega back because Omega was trapped in another in a pocket dimension created by his own mind. Because in the episode The Three Doctors, it is found out that to create the Eye of Harmony, which is what powers the Time Lords, like all the time travel stuff, they basically harness the power of a synthesized black hole by creating a black hole out of a star. In doing so, Omega was trapped in the event horizon of that, and he ended up creating a universe around himself to the point where if he left that universe, that pocket universe, he would cease to exist. So he cannot come back.
yeah. So we haven't seen anybody other than the Doctor, the Master, and Rassilon. We've seen unnamed in the general, but other than that, we haven't seen any other Time Lords. No Ronnie, nobody else. So
they should have made. What if she's the meddlesome monk? The meddling monk. The only problem with that, though, is the whole, oh my gosh, you really are me.
Yeah,
but that is the only problem with that, because the meddling monk is a total, like, trickster. He's fun.
That would be one thing that the meddlesome monk would be capable of doing, is, like, disguising himself from Screwdriver to make it look like he was the Doctor. Or she.
He would be able to do that.
He would so do that. That's fully within what he might do.
No, it's not.
Oh, it's not? Okay.
No.
Okay.
I have no idea who that is.
I don't either, but apparently classic who.
He was in one episode of the first Doctor run, but he also has reappeared in the Big Finish audios, and the dude playing him in the Big Finish audios is hilarious. That character is just amazing in the audios. But his character, he's called the meddlesome monk because the first time that when he appears in the series in the first Doctor run, he is dressed as a monk, and so he gained the name meddlesome monk because he was meddling with time. And he was actually the Time Meddler. It's the title of that serial. But he is so Missy. He actually appeared in one of Missy's audio, and she's like, keeps calling him monk, monkey, and stuff like that. And he's like, quit calling me that. I'm not the monk. I'm Henry VIII right now. Okay, so when you first came here, what were you dressed as? I wasn't a monk. Oh, what were you? Abbot or whatever.
Friar,
where were you
or something like that.
Yeah, something else. It's like, or a priest or something like that. And it's like,
Not really straying far from your
Yeah,
wheelhouse, are ya?
exactly.
Unable
So much that he's so fun. But yeah, really, I think the only one that would really make sense would be the Ronnie because she is very, very calculating and she actually could figure out a way to manipulate the readings like that. But I don't know if she'd be able to manipulate them so far as to be completely indistinguishable from the doctor. Plus, I don't know why she would.
Yeah, well, I
Because,
mean, motivations can be. You can engineer motivations to a certain extent if there was something that they wanted particularly,
well,
or
you see, the problem with that is the Ronnie has one motivation. Always has, always will. Science. Literally, her entire motivation for all things is the advancement of the sum of knowledge. The only reason she does anything is
she is
to,
literally for science the character.
yes, yeah, she is. To the point where she supersedes any moral or
Ethical.
social
Yeah,
ethic. She's just, will it advance science? Yes, I'll do it. So what if somebody gets hurt along the way? They're just they're just peasants. What do I care? They're just humans.
their proper their sacrifice will be more than worth it for the amount of information I gain from it, and they can go in peace knowing that they helped move forward science just another
Exactly.
inch.
what
If
you're
they
saying.
knew if they knew what they were being used for, they would say yes, because they would know how much we're how much the world, the universe is gaining in knowledge because of their sacrifice.
So what you're saying
It's
is
not even
he's
sacrifice
Glad-
because
what you're
this
saying
is
is Gladys from Portal.
this is this is one of her quotes. Am I expected to abandon my research because of the side effects on inferior species? Are you prepared to abandon walking in case you squash an insect underfoot?
Yeah.
So yeah, she's GLaDOS from Portal.
I don't know. I've never played Portal.
Kind of the same idea. GLaDOS has got science. It's not getting into spoilers, but she's basically a computer mainframe that runs this testing facility basically she constructs mazes for Portal, for this sort of Portal testing initiative, and her whole thing is the science, the science, the science. It doesn't matter how many subjects she kills. She doesn't care so long as she gets her science. The science gets done, and they make it and they tweak the portal gun properly.
And Cake. Don't forget about Cake.
Oh yes, cake, but yeah. Anyway, but yeah, if unless she was using her new identity to try and get access to things the doctor could get a hold of, but I can't imagine. I mean, if the Time Lords do the Time Lords like the Ronnie, or is she on the run
Oh
as
no,
much as? Okay, she's
she's
on the run
been
as much as
banished. No, she was banished, and you want to know why?
she was messing with the Time Lords themselves.
No, one of her lab rats grew to disproportionate size, ate the president's cat, and took a chunk out of him as well. So it ate the president's cat and then ate part of the president before it was killed.
Yeah.
And then they're like, "Get out!"
Maybe trying to get into unit to get some extra resources. It's like try and steal,
Possibly.
so if I disguise myself as the doctor, they'll let me do pretty much whatever I want because I'm a doctor. I'm a good guy. Then I can get all the scientific resources I need that they wouldn't give me, but they'd give the doctor. And then I can go do this experiment I want to do.
That is possible. I mean,
But
she is above manipulating, and she is a master of disguise, and she is very conniving. So, I mean,
if we hadn't gotten word of God that it was the doctor, then yeah, like all this sort of stuff around it, it's like if you were just focusing on what's in the episode itself, you could still cling to some of those hopes, but it's just like, nope, she's a real doc. She's the doctor. She's the doctor. She's the doctor. No, nope, she's the doctor. It's like there are a lot of things you could do that would be far more interesting. Like if it was the Ronnie, like we haven't had a proper, Time Lord other than the Master hanging around in ages. We've had Rassilon shows up a couple times, but somebody else, like more than 2 seconds, like the Doctor, the Master, and Rassilon or Missy, but same person. But
no,
it would be giving the Doctor an actual challenge instead of just toying with Sontarans and Cybermen and Daleks. It's like, hey, Gallifreyan, an actual challenge.
I know this was just all fake, and the Doctor's just having a very strong drug trip.
she's having a mental break.
Yeah.
That doctor is actually a one of the voices in her head, and she's turning into the 9. Although technically she'd be the 13. That's another Time Lord that they deal with in the audios. Specifically, the 8th Doctor dealt with him the most, but he has a very unique regenerative disorder where all of his past regenerations are in his head. So it's like schizophrenia that gets worse each time you regenerate.
It's kind of like, what is it? It's like the Dax symbiote from Deep Space Nine. Like it's not that extreme, but they're all there, and you can bring them out if you want to. But it's a more extreme version of that.
Yeah, kind of, but a lot more extreme to the point where they can take over. It is like
there was,
but each of the personalities are just another incarnation that he has already had.
Yeah.
So his multiple personalities get worse with each regeneration. And he is so insane, and it is so much fun. And I loved when he met up with Missy, because that was just so awesome. But yeah.
Suffice to say, he's probably a conflicted sort of person.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's and what if this word of God is just to throw us a red herring, and then nope, that's not the real Doctor, that's the Ronnie or something messing with it. Or that this is an anomaly in the timeline that will be reshuffled at the end of it. Like they'll do something like she's an anomaly that popped out because of some hijinks that the Time Lords were getting up to, and then disappeared again. But yeah, we don't know. Like, and there has been some like rumors going around that Chibnall wants to make the first Doctor actually female. Like, we didn't see the actual first Doctor. That was, he has other generations that we don't know about, and he doesn't know about, or she doesn't know about, and that sort of thing. And it's like, why? Why is that important?
No, I appreciate a female Doctor. Like, I appreciate the Doctor being female as a premise. Like, Missy was perfect. Okay.
Yeah. If it had been Ruth, if 12 had regenerated into Ruth,
that would have been brilliant.
Yeah, if she's as good as now, she would have had to deal with the same bad writing, but I think Joe Martin's a better actress. I think she's. I think she. The personality is better. It's actually a personality. Like, she is just. She's not above calling people stupid to their face. She's like, you're stupid, stupid. Just like, congratulations, you you've caught up with somebody who is who figured it out 5 minutes ago, who had their memories just returned, or something like that. I give you 5 points. Oh, you don't give me points. I do the points. It's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. She does the points because she's actually funny and actually intimidating. Like, you could imagine, she gets serious, she could actually pull off the intimidating part of the Doctor. 13 can't do that. She's just not intimidating. Whittaker just doesn't have an intimidating bone in her body. Just like, she goes to threaten her. You want to threaten. Goes to threaten you. You just want to pick up a rolled newspaper and pop her on the head. It's like, no, bad. It's like, I'm not intimidated by you.
Honestly, I think Whitaker's doctor is more like Osgood than an actual doctor. Because she basically has the Osgood type personality. She's a fangirl of like everything, and she can't be intimidating for anything because she's just such a pussycat.
Yeah. Now I've just got this.
She's trying to be, huh?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Even when she's trying to be stern, she's just like, nope.
Yeah, just no intimidation, and all I've got is this this image in my head of like a more standard Dalek coming up, and she's like, "I'm gonna stop you," and then the Dalek just picks up a rolled newspaper and pops her on the head a couple times. No, but you're scared of me. Oncoming storm. Pop.
Negative.
Kill you, you'll just regenerate. And I don't want to deal with that. I can deal with you. I don't want to deal with whoever's coming after you. They might actually be a threat. But yeah, she gets the Ruth gets the, I'm going to be,
like, yeah, like that scene, like the scene where I thought you were the doctor. Doctor doesn't do guns. Shut up. They don't know that.
Yeah. She in that scene, she looks like a companion, to be honest.
Yeah, she does. I think that was kind of the point, though.
Yeah, obviously, but yeah. But yeah, it's just like. And there was another thing that was weird in that part of the episode that, like, something, if two doctors, meet, if two of the same Time Lord meet each other, something would go off, and it's like, no.
That is technically true, but it is a rule that is often broken.
Yeah, but it doesn't actually do anything. Apparently, for every time they've done it, it hasn't really broken anything.
Well, the thing is that it creates a paradox.
Yeah, but it seems to resolve itself by going, okay, the younger can't retain it, and then that just resolves.
Well, they just erase the memory of it so that the paradox is erased once the pair of docs is separated.
Paradox creating a paradox.
Yep. Oh yeah, speaking of bad puns, I was watching Because Science footnotes, and the random topic to start was Conchicali. Conchicali is the term for a creature that lives in a shell. And so I made the joke. So if you invite somebody to hang out with you inside your shell, would that be a conjugal visit?
Anyway.
Wow, that earned a double sigh. That was that good, huh?
Anyway, but yeah, I mean, broad strokes, she makes no sense. I mean, they're gonna have to do some real hackery on the timeline, and it's gonna make that whole episode with Clara make no sense. But unless it's a thing that happened because the Time Lords intervened and changed the Doctor, and it didn't happen until after the
To
Doctor
Clara.
that happened. Because if it happens after that, then yeah, okay, that whole timeline was predicated on the fact that the Doctor was going to die. That's the whole reason that timeline even existed, and why that timeline was limited up until 11's Doctor.
Yeah.
If it changes, which it did,
I
which
think,
created the situation for 12 and future Doctors to come into play.
yeah, I think the thing with that is I don't think it was the Time Lords. I really honestly think it was the Master manipulating things, and I don't think he intended to make the female Doctor or Ruth or whatever, but I think it's because if you look at the Ruth's personality and stuff, I think he did something to try to manipulate the Doctor into being more like him. Which, I mean, it's impossible, and that's why she turned out not like him. But at the same time, I mean, he was fucking with things in on Gallifrey and all that, so he very well could have messed with something. And I still think that that line in the crappiest episode of the 13th Doctor's run, uh Orphan 55,
Yeah.
that one that they said about changing time and stuff, time can be rewritten, blah blah blah. I think that was supposed to be a foreshadowing, a very poorly done foreshadowing.
It's supposed to be sort of a plant the seed of, we're about to mess with canon.
Yeah.
Which would be funny if, okay, Chibnall gets through all of this. He gets through his run. He does all the damage he's going to do. And then the next showrunner comes along and, like, some event happens and just erases everything Chibnall did to the timeline. It's like, all right, timeline's restored to normal. We're going to go back into normal progression.
Although let's keep Ruth. She was actually pretty cool. The
Yeah,
Ruth
it
doc-
just depends on how
I
she
think,
came about.
yeah,
If how she came about was such an abomination, then yeah, get rid. Losing Ruth, but getting rid of all the abomination, stuff that you did to continuity, can just that's
yeah,
good enough.
yeah. But honestly, I would love to have her as the actual Doctor.
Yeah,
Like,
if she'd been picked up as 13 and you had actually written her like she was written in this episode, she still would have had sucky episodes to deal with.
oh yeah,
But she might have been a shining diamond in the middle of a pile of bull poop. Like, it's like, oh yeah, there's this nice, cool doctor that's got an actual personality. He's got a little bit of that. It's almost pompousness, but not quite. It's sort of this
that's
stupid.
Doctor Sass.
Yeah, yeah. She's sassy enough that she's like, oh, he's stupid. You're just stupid. You know, because
She's got
maybe
that
that's something that 13 doesn't
attitude.
have is the
Yeah.
is she's sort of a her personality is a symptom of the ideology that they're working from. Nobody can ever be mean to anybody. If you do that, you're a monster. It's like, yes, sometimes people are mean, sometimes people are sassy, sometimes the doctor is sassy, sometimes the doctor is mean. But usually
Always,
in the service of
always,
kindness.
always try to be nice,
He's
but never.
never fail to be kind. Which I
Yeah.
think 13, like 12 is not very nice most of the time, but very kind.
Yeah.
13 is tries to be nice, but in doing so is not especially kind. Um,
Yeah. Like that spider episode was a perfect example of
oh,
you just failed to be kind because you're trying to be nice.
yeah. Well, if you're thinking about the situation, like, why are you yelling at the guy who put it out of its misery? It was suffering,
Yeah.
and he was like, okay, this thing is clearly suffering, and if we continue to let it live, it's just going to sit there and suffer until it dies. Put it out of its misery. You can't fix it, so the only thing you can do is limit its suffering. I don't have, spider morphine on me, so let's just put it out of its misery. It's not going to live very long anyway. Just don't make it suffer anymore. And then they lock all the other spiders in a room to slowly starve
So,
and kill each other. Yeah, starve to death, and then they'll start eating each other, and then so I mean, from a perspective of trying to be as kind to those spiders as possible, the Trump
killing
analog is actually a lot kinder to them than the doctor ever was.
yeah.
But yeah, it's sometimes the doctor's not nice, and that's something you have to deal with. Like, the doctor's not everybody's friend. You know, she
She's
does
not
their
everybody's
best.
pal.
Yeah, it's like the doctor makes hard decisions, and there's a lot of pain behind those eyes. I mean, go rewatch the Zygon speech.
Yes.
Go
Oh
rewatch
my god.
12's Zygon speech. 12 is not my favorite doctor, but
Yeah.
he has some awesome moments.
Oh
Like,
yes.
it's not for lack of good acting. Like, it's just because he's not the kind of doctor I'm particularly fond of, but I appreciate how well he is done. Like,
Yes.
not my favorite, but I appreciate the way he's done. Absolutely appreciate it. And
He has
that
so
whole
much
Zygon
depth.
speech. If you want to know what the doctor's about, I have seen things you can't imagine. I have done things you can't imagine. You know what you do with all that pain? All that you grab hold of it, you hold it tight until it burns your hands. That's who I am. And it's like, that's the doctor. He doesn't always do the nice thing, but he makes some hard decisions and he tries to do the kind thing.
Yeah.
You know, and the doctor's just Whitaker's again just that puppy that you're like, no, bad puppy, and you want to hit her on the head with a rolled up newspaper. You wouldn't do that to Ruth. She'd grab the newspaper out of your hand and slap you across the side of the head. What do you think you're doing? Like 13 would go, that wasn't very nice. Ruth would grab the newspaper from your hand and slap you across the head twice for every time you hit her. Just like, no,
Yeah.
you don't get to do that. It's like, or wouldn't let you get it in the first place. Just grab it out of your hand and go, what do you think you're doing? Slap you on the head and go, now get over there and stay out of my way. Like, Ruth seems like the kind of doctor that wouldn't put up with that. She's like, it feels like you could get away with a lot more with 13 because
So
she
there,
just
do you remember the movie The Core?
Yeah.
vaguely. So I just remember they had the the armor of their drill was made out of unobtainium because they're just like, we're not even gonna
Yeah.
try and lie to you. Like this is unobtainable stuff.
Yeah.
Just suspension of
But
disbelief. This is built
there
in.
is a quote in that movie that I really think encompasses the Doctor. Being a leadership isn't about ability, it's about responsibility. Got it, sir. No, you don't, Beck. I mean, you're not just responsible for the good ones. You've got to be responsible for the bad ones. You've got to be ready to make the shitty call. What makes you think I'm not? Because you're so damn good. You haven't hit anything you couldn't beat. I mean, hell, you were the one who figured out how to save the space shuttle. You made the rest of NASA look like an ass. You're just you're just so used to winning, and you're not really a leader until you've lost.
Yeah. So, but
Like-
yeah, she's just. But yeah,
And
if
just the problem with her thing is she doesn't have enough depth because she isn't going to be able to make those shitty calls and okay, people have to get hurt in order to make sure everybody isn't hurt.
okay, a perfect example of where I've gone back and I lately have been rewatching 11 because I get 13 out of my mouth. I've got the DVDs, so I'm like, okay, I'll just watch. I'll watch some 11 because I like 11, and I just didn't feel like watching 10. I like 9 and 10 too, but 11 felt good, and so I was like, okay, so you have his 11th hour, okay. His first episode after that is The Beast Below. Okay. That is go Chibnall and all go watch that. Because at the end of it, he's set in The Beast Below, spoilers for if you haven't gone back and watched Beast Below, go watch it. It's good. At the end of it, it's basically the one where you have England and Wales and Northern Ireland on a space whale.
It's basically the ripoff of Terry Pratchett.
Anyway, it's basically an impossible decision because because there's two options on the table that he thinks, and so what he does is, okay, you either press the button, release the whale, the whole England falls apart and stops moving through space and everybody dies. The other is to keep torturing the whale and forget. And so 11's first instinct is to go in the middle and go, okay, so I'm going to basically lobotomize the whale so that it's no longer feeling the pain, but it'll keep moving. It's the most merciful thing I can think of. It's a shitty decision.
Yeah.
But it's the least of the, but he's willing to make that decision because he cares. And so he's willing to make that decision. Now, Amy comes by and stops him and says no, and hits the button that stops the shocks. And while it causes a little turbulence for a little bit, she's the one who's realized that the whale would keep going without the shocks. And because it was the very last of its kind, very old, very kind, and the last of its kind, what kind of thing couldn't you do? And so she realizes the whale and the whale actually speeds up because you stopped shocking the pilot, and so you see there that he may not have seen himself or seen the third option that time, but the Doctor was about to make a mistake because he was trying to do the best he could, and he was also willing to make that mistake because it was a shitty decision, but it's the least shitty decision he could make. It's like the whale is no longer suffering, the people don't die. He's put in an impossible decision. Has 13 ever been in an impossible decision?
No, and that is one of the worst things that these writers are doing is they aren't giving her enough challenges, and they aren't giving her a chance to show a personality.
Yeah.
They aren't willing to give her a chance to be the Doctor.
Yeah.
She's
I'm
just, I can do anything. I got, I'll save the day
yeah.
with my handy dandy screwdriver. And it's like, no, you need that sense of urgency, that sense of danger, that sense of, okay, maybe I can't solve every problem.
And sometimes the best solution is still bad, but it's not. It's the least bad that you can do.
Yeah. And I think if they decided to, well, you know what I think it is? I think they're trying to cater to a younger audience and a more like PC crowd, and they don't want to make it as, well, I don't want to say mature, because I mean, even my nephew is like, dude, at some points. And I mean, they're still trying to go all gore, the gory type thing with like the monster costumes and shit. But at the same time, they're not
There's no
making it.
intellectual maturity. Like
Yeah,
they're all very. There's no higher level.
very
Like you wouldn't see an
juvenile
episode like The
story.
Beast Below with 13.
Like Sarah Jane Adventures, which is meant to be a kid's show, has deeper meaning and more, and it gives you better allegories. The stories are more catered to a broader audience. And it's just like, some of those stories are really dark for a kid's show. Whereas this, it's like, dude, I think the darkest thing in this series is the fact that they killed off Gallifrey again.
Yeah.
It's
It's
like,
like,
that's not
can't you
even,
let Gallifrey stand for a little bit? Like
yeah,
we
it's
haven't
like,
we've barely
that's
seen
not
it.
even, that's not even dangerous anymore, because, dude, it's been done to death. Pun intended.
What's funny is if you think about it, it just shows you how weak the writers are on this show, because the stuff that would cause them to have to think real hard about how the world would work, they shuffle it off. Like, okay, they did it for the revival. They put Gallifrey in a bottle. They said it was destroyed. Okay, that simplifies things because you only have like the master and maybe a few of those things. Okay, and then they brought it back. They brought back Gallifrey at the end of 11's run. Okay, they used it a tiny bit in 12, but then they shuffled it right back out. And anytime they have a problem, they don't write it complicated enough that the TARDIS can't just immediately solve it. They can't set it
Yeah,
up in a way that the TARDIS can't immediately solve it. The whole point of Orphan 50, the whole thing about Orphan 55 is if the Doctor has her TARDIS, that episode is over in about 5 minutes.
not even 5 minutes.
Well, loading people on and offloading them and whatnot, and realizing the problems there and whatnot. But still, yeah, it wouldn't take long to fix it. So you notice a lot of Series 11 and Series 12, and we've noted this. The Doctor
Yeah,
doesn't have her TARDIS. Like they
yeah,
shove it aside and say, "Oh no, you don't have your TARDIS."
yeah. It's like the seasons, the fifth and sixth seasons, when they took away his sonic screwdriver because it was it was too easy.
Yeah,
But at the same time, this is her home. This is the this is a character in and of itself.
yeah.
And
Don't be
instead of
mean to Sexy. Don't shove her off.
yes, instead of working a more complex storyline, they decide to just oversimplify everything. And instead of writing those preachy allegories into a proper story. They just tell you what the moral of the story is at the end of each episode. Which
Today,
I
children.
appreciate. I appreciate the morals they're trying to tell. Don't get me wrong. At least most of them. But
Some of them, yeah, are more
I said at least most of them.
problematic than they're worth. But
Like Orphan 55, I totally agree with the message they're trying to send. The story itself sucked. The story was terrible. And I don't even mind them shoving the moral in your face, because it is a moral that needs to be told. But nobody's going to care if the story is stupid, if the story has no cohesion.
well, and people will generally not take, if you're condescending, if you're really condescending in the way you deliver your message,
Yes.
it'll push people off. And when you preach directly to the camera, guess what that's going to do? You're going to come off as condescending, and people are going to ignore it.
Yeah.
On top of the bad episode. So you're
Yeah.
actually double messing over. If you wanted to send this message out, you are doubly, you have a bad episode, so people are going to tie what you're rooting for to you. And when you produce nothing but bad episodes, they're going to go, oh, stupid people who make terrible episodes think this is important. Boop. Oh, I won't take them seriously, because they're clearly not very bright, because look at how bad they did. But yeah, it's just so
tedious.
Yeah, and there's no hard decisions. There's no
like, even in the classic episodes, they had more challenges and more depth and more, like, it was more hard hitting and everything. And this is just, okay, yeah, cool story, bro.
Well, and the fact that you can't be clever unless you have a problem that requires cleverness.
Yeah, it's kind of that, kind of the way war tends to inspire ingenuity, or disability inspires ingenuity, because you have to have a need for it before you actually decide to do it.
Yeah, and if you don't have, if you sit there and only take kindergarten level tests, well, you'll ace them, but you'll never show off the maximum of your abilities. You'll just, oh yeah, she can ace kindergarten problems. Congratulations. Show us something interesting. And
it's kind of like, cosplayers, they tend to be more creative during economic, crises, because they have to be.
yeah.
When you have all the money in the world, you can do whatever. But
Yeah.
when you don't have all that money, you have to be more creative with your money and creative with your time.
Yeah. And
I
repurposing things that okay, well, I don't want this anymore. I can use this old thing to make something new.
Or like, I can use this for 6 different costumes.
Yeah.
Like, I have one pair of shoes that work for 4 characters. Whereas when when you actually have money, you're just like, I can buy a pair of shoes for each costume. Or, hey, this scarf works for, I could use it as sash for this character, and I can use it as an actual scarf for this character, and I could use it as a shawl, or, stuff like that.
Or if you're me, it's like, you know what? I can wear this costume for all 3 days.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about creativity, not laziness.
I am creative. I am lazy. I mean, I'm creative in my laziness.
That's not creative, dude.
Oh, shush.
But yeah, like, You need to have a problem to solve in order to show you can solve a problem.
Well,
And that's one of the biggest problems with the current doctor. They aren't giving her any problems to solve. They aren't giving her a chance to even try to be the doctor.
yeah, it's. I mean, there's a place in Doctor Who for, technobabble saves the day, but you also need to come up with okay, you need to have those episodes where you do something clever
Or,
that you could think of instead of the doctor having these technobabble knowledge. You could have something interesting.
or maybe an episode where the technobabble doesn't save the day. Like the
Yeah,
technobabble doesn't work. And then you need something brilliantly simple.
yeah. I want to see the doctor defeat, I don't know, some Centaurans with a log and some duct tape.
Yeah, or
Because
like
I gotta imagine quite a few of the doctors previous could do that.
oh yeah. There was actually, not to sound pedantic with, oh my gosh, the Big Finish is amazing, but in Legacy of Time, they were talking about an incident which I haven't seen the episode that it's referencing, but he made a time scanner or something out of silverware, out of to I don't remember specifically what it was, but to control temporal distortions or something out
Yeah,
of cutlery.
yeah.
And I
Something that the
that
audience could
first
follow would be.
episode here. They had that in the first episode where she made her sonic screwdriver out of silverware.
Yeah, but I'm talking like stuff where you could do it. Like
Yeah.
if you'd been clever enough to do it, you could do it. Like you couldn't build a sonic screwdriver out of silverware, but say stopping the Centaurans with a log and some duct tape, blocking oh, we'll block up this, or we'll hit them over the head with the log, and then we'll take their guns, and then we'll do something clever, and you know but like something like the audience could feasibly do without having to know a lot of technological knowledge. Something cool like that would be interesting. But
Or like
it
in the Tesla episode where she used the random chemicals lying around the lab, and it's like, oh, you got this and you got this. Do you have any what was it, magnesium or whatever? And he's like, what are you trying to do? Are you insane? And she's like, oh, that was like something clever that wasn't just using her, the sonic screwdriver to save the day, or the TARDIS to save the day. But if they were able to stop the bad guys like that or something, as opposed to just using it to stall as a stall tactic.
yeah. Well, and if they'd done something like the oh, off the top of my head, the scorpions in that particular species, the doctor happens to know that they hate light. Okay, and so there's a ball. They've got some magnesium over there, and they shave the magnesium and set it alight with like welding goggles on, because magnesium produces an extremely bright light. And if you just kept throwing magnesium out there and lighting it on fire and throwing it out there and using that to delay them, that would have been an interesting thing to do. You know, like, oh, we
Or,
can't.
yeah, something like that. Or, like, I forgot what I was going to say now.
But yeah, I mean, we've done it again and gone off on diversion. Been basically an hour and 45 minutes of, well, probably not that much because we started a little late, but probably an hour 40 of just going off on that. We're still connected to what the doctor needs to do to be better. And it's very important when we have two doctors, and a doctor that is not great, and a doctor that, if given good writing, could be very good because she actually has a personality. And so, like, yeah, it's just, it's it's frustrating, but I'm
Like,
hoping.
I honestly really was looking forward to a female doctor, and if Ruth was it from the beginning, or if they gave Whitaker a chance to be like, to have that kind of personality, that would have been great.
Yeah, actually have one that just
Yeah,
that makes, that seems like the doctor, because the thing you have to remember always about the doctor, that phrase, try to be nice but never fail to be kind. And if all you're doing is being nice all the time, it's like, and if you don't have the gravitas, like if you've ever seen I probably bring this up a little too often, but the original Janeway versus uh, the the uh, Kate Mulgrew. If you will go back and watch the French Canadian, the original, because there's a few minutes of it, you can find it online. There's a few minutes of it where you can see how she would walk onto the bridge and how she would give commands and do all that. Okay, they did that. They filmed her doing that, and they filmed Mulgrew doing the same thing, and it's completely different. Like, it's the
yeah,
same lines and everything, but it's delivered and direction. Just Mulgrew's a better actress for this sort of role. I'm sure the original
yeah,
actress was good at certain things, but as a captain, a hero captain, not really. Mulgrew
yeah,
had it. The thing that can go. Somebody walks onto the bridge, walks onto the TARDIS, and you're like, "That's the Doctor. That's the Captain." And it's like,
yeah,
Mulgrew had it. This other woman didn't. You know, Ruth has it and could have it if given good writing. Whitaker doesn't. Like, as a companion, she probably would have been fine, but as a doctor, not so much. And we actually now have two female doctors to compare, so
yeah.
you can go, okay, which of the two female doctors do you like more? This one,
Ruth.
Ruth. That
Yeah.
one.
I mean,
That one is the better one.
she has actual like panache.
Yeah, personality
And
is.
honestly, I think Kate Mulgrew would have made a great doctor.
Yeah.
Even like even as she is now, she still would make a great doctor.
Yeah. Yeah. If you took Mulgrew, gave her a British accent, and moved her over,
Heck,
and
you need to give her a British accent. They had an American master.
yeah, but they always had to take the piss out of him. So
True. But I mean, it was Eric Roberts, so I
lots of Earth, lots of planets have on America.
yeah. But I mean, Kate Mulgrew would have made a perfect doctor,
Yeah,
no
somebody
matter
like
what.
that. Somebody with she can
That,
have presence on the stage.
yeah,
Somebody with presence. Whitaker doesn't have that presence. She's fine as as somebody who's not like a leader.
she
Like
is a
a
she is a great companion. She honestly reminds me more of an Osgood than a doctor.
yeah. If she was made a companion, if this had been uh if the original casting had been, all right, we're gonna have uh Joe Martin, I think is her name, Ruth, as the doctor, and have Whitaker as her companion, and that was it, I think it would have been a better show. Even
Yeah,
with the bad writing, I think it would have been a better show. It also would have shrunk the fam, because I don't think Ruth would have a fam. Like, she barely
yeah,
tolerated another doctor. I don't
yeah.
think she has a fam. um, like, I don't think she would have much of a companion. Like, she had that guy in the episode, but like, I don't think her with her memories fully restored would have had Whitaker's kind of fam. And
Well,
of
I mean,
course,
Doctor always has a companion.
yeah,
So she would have had a companion, but I think, and I think she would, I think if she were the Doctor, she would need a Whitaker type companion. That's hyper, eager to please, eager to be happy, fluffy type companion would be perfect for her Doctor.
yeah, it's like a more like a better Clara. You know, she has
Yeah,
a carer, but like better. Because I'm
I
not a
actually like
humongous fan of
Clara.
Clara. Yeah, not a humongous
I,
fan of Clara, but
but yeah, she. Although, if they do like pick this up and like keep going with this, and at the end of the day, when all is said and done, and they don't retcon her out, I would love to see her in Big Finish.
oh,
See
I'm
some
sure if
good.
she gets to be good enough, if they can actually
I,
give her some good
I
storylines and writing, then
yeah, I would love to see her like, because Big Finish is great for taking doctors that, and companions and everything that don't really have much, who are kind of meh in the series. And like Sixth Doctor was always like, ugh, it's the Sixth Doctor. But then once you get to his audios, everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's the Sixth Doctor. And honestly, Eighth Doctor, because the movie was, I really did not like the movie. And I swear to Q, there has to be a silence somewhere in that movie. But you know, the movie was there. But then listening to the audios, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's awesome. You know? So I think if you give her good writers, I mean, even the 13th Doctor might be good if you give her good writers. Like,
yeah, and actually decide, okay, we are
yeah,
going to like sit down in the writers' room and decide here are the key characteristics of the 13th Doctor. We're going
because
to solidify them and we're going to use them and we're going to continuously give them consistent writing. And it's just
yeah,
like,
I think a big problem with it isn't so much her acting as it's the way she's written very inconsistently. And so, like, you notice certain episodes, she has a lot of that goofy, like, hey fam type thing. And she's always, and in certain episodes, she's constantly messing up with things. And that, messing up like the pop culture type things, and really just that embarrassing aunt type thing, which I admit I can be sometimes. But in certain episodes she has a real personality, but then you get to most of the episodes and they just are really inconsistent at what level she is, what level those characteristics are portrayed and which characteristics are being portrayed. And therefore, I don't know how much control the actor has on the script. So, like, she's, if you notice, she's acting consistently. Like, she is consistently acting, but she isn't given enough personality to be, written into it to actually show any personality. So, it's just frustrating, and especially considering, I would have loved her to be amazing right out of the gate, and that way, oh yeah, the Doctor can be a woman, but this just makes it all the naysayers like the Doctor can't be a woman. It's like, see, the Doctor can't be a woman.
Yeah, this particular with this writing staff and this showrunner, no. Yeah,
Yeah, like
no, obviously not. But I don't know. Maybe Whitaker had better writing. I don't know. We don't know what she's fully capable of because we never see her get something because she's always stuck in bad writing to begin with. So I
yeah,
mean, I I tend to think she's not got the intimidation factor because they've shown they can write that because they got Ruth and Ruth is very good. But then like 13 is just like write her better, direct her better, do something, get more out of Whitaker because you're just not getting enough out of her. Because you're not giving her the line she needs, you're not giving her the direction she needs, or you're giving her bad direction that's holding her back. Or she's just not
yeah.
that great. We don't know. But it's really hard to pick apart exactly for certain what she is.
Well,
But
that's the big problem with them changing everything at once. It's kind of like in an experiment, because okay, maybe I am slightly the Ronnie. But in
but you
an
were Osgood.
experiment, huh?
That you were Osgood.
I'm Osgood and the Ronnie. I mean, I do play both characters.
But anyway, yeah, you're basically not keeping controls. You're changing all the variables at once. And so you're changing all the writing staff over. You're changing who the Doctor is. You're changing the showrunner. Everything is being changed over at once, so it's hard to sometimes pick apart exactly what's causing the problem. It could be all of it, writing, showrunning, actress, all at the same time. It could be, the writing is definitely bad. We can kind of pick that out. The writing's not very good. And the writing shows on the showrunner, so we know at least that much is not very good. But we can't sometimes tell whether, because her performance is a reflection on her direction and what script she's given.
Yeah.
And so,
And like I said, I don't know how we never know how much control the actors actually have with their with their
yeah.
specific characterizations.
Yeah, you can
Like,
take a very good actor, but give him terrible direction, and it looks bad.
yeah. And I mean, I don't blame her for being like, but it's the Doctor. Of course I want to do it.
Yeah, but
And I mean, you can tell she's having fun with it. But I think that they need to give her more substance and see if she can handle it, honestly. Like, because we don't know if she can handle it. And if she can't, then maybe she should be replaced or at least given a different kind of role. But, you know, we definitely know the writers suck.
yeah, writers and Chibnall's not great. I mean, it's not like 42 was an amazing episode. I mean, he did write the Power of Three, but
Yeah.
42. There's a lot more 42 to this series than there is to the Power of Three.
Yeah.
And he was already starting with good characters to begin with. It's like
Yeah.
you spotted him good characters. It's like
And
you already
I
had.
mean, even Kate Stewart was a pre-existing character.
Yeah. So I mean,
That he took her from the from a series
an
from a
audiobook.
movie back
Oh,
in from a movie back in the 90s.
but yeah. So I mean, he had they spotted him good characters. So he didn't have to develop the Doctor. He didn't have to develop uh, the pawns. But
And Kate, we already had a template for because she's just, taking after her dad, so she has that strong moral compass, and you could already extrapolate what she'd be like. So
Yeah.
it's not like you even have to worry about her.
But yeah, he hasn't really crafted great characters. Like if you come in, you need to come in with this is what this character is like. This is what this companion is like. This is the strengths, weaknesses, personality quirks. You should be able to write for like I forget what it was. I think it was it was Harry Potter. Like I don't remember how many pages, but like all of them uh like the main three characters, Harry, Hermione, and Ron, had to all write a certain page like report on their character, knowing back and forth about their character. Like, talk about your character. What is your character about and whatnot. And so, like, going in detail about kind of what kind of personality they have. And the funny thing about, and so you need to have that sort of thing. I think the funny thing was like Ron's actor forgot to turn it in or something, and it was like that was just perfect, like or something. Um, I don't remember
That sounds
exactly what it
about
was.
right.
Yeah, it's like that was kind of there was something like that. I'll have to look it up afterwards or something. But yeah, you should be able to write for like write a certain amount of pages of just tell me about this character.
You
What is
know
she
what?
like? What if she
You
doesn't
should,
like? That,
you should be able to write a fanfic like a biography of your character
mm,
in order to get to play them.
yeah, you don't need to do
Like,
that with every character. If you're gonna have a character come on and deliver a soda to somebody and then go off screen,
no,
okay, you
I
don't
mean,
need to know that. But any main character, you need to be going on for pages about this
you
character.
have to at least be able to write like a you have to at least be able to write a dating profile for them, okay?
Yeah, if they're gonna
Like
be a
a
main
MySpace
character,
page type thing.
yeah, if they're gonna be a main character, yeah. Or if you're gonna be a focus of an episode or a main character, yes. If you're gonna make somebody delivering coffee, you don't really need to worry about them so much. But if you're gonna be writing the doctor or somebody important, the fam, the companions, then those each companion you need to write like 10 pages of just this is their biography, this is what they do, this is what they think, this is how they believe this should work, so that when you go to write a paper, you can when you have people in the writers room, all right, I want you to read these. Here's the for the fam, for the doctor and the fam. Here are the sort of data sheets. These are what they're about. This is their personality, their history, everything. And before I let you write for me, you have to pass a test on this stuff. I will write a test and you will pass it before you are allowed to write for me. If you can if you can read this and write in and pass a test, then we're good. We'll start there. But you have to start by knowing these characters backwards and forwards, so you don't make stupid things. But anyway,
Well, so much for ducks this week.
yeah, I
Well,
think we
I'll
should
be honest,
probably cut it down.
I think that we should do Ducks first, then Doctor Who.
Well, I doubt next week's going to be quite so wordy because we didn't have so much. We didn't have as big a probably not going to have as big of a bombshell to worry
yeah.
about. Um,
You notice the longest running episodes are the ones where they drop a shit on us.
Yeah, they
Like,
dropped something on us. Like I imagine Orphan 55 was pretty long because we were just absolutely destroying it. But yeah,
well,
long episodes get
really
long. Bad
destroying
episodes
it.
get long things.
We didn't really have to destroy it because the writers already did that for us.
But yeah. Anyway, I guess I'll go ahead and stop it there before we go on another 30-minute tangent.
I
Alright.
gotta get sleep today because guess what? I haven't really slept much this week.
Okay.
First, Monday.
Alright, well,
Monday.
let me finish it out. Alright. Boop.